Okay. You know what? I want to turn off this crosshair. It's kind of breaking my immersion here. No. Yes. Okay. The only reason I had it in the first place was because I assumed there was going to be some combat in some way, and I figured that having that up when using guns might be a good idea. But this game doesn't seem to want me to do any kind of combat yet. It's introducing things. I mean, we're in chapter 5, and it's just introducing a stealth aspect of it, so I guess.
This is insane. What killed him?
Anywho. Doo-doo-doo. Okay. Nothing to investigate. Oh, it's the gas. I'm going crazy. I'll just run through it. I can't run. I'm too insane to run. I guess the open door. I'm fine now. Maybe
Damn.
not. Damn!
The gas!
The gas!
Oh. My head.
Later. We need to move on.
Oh, okay, that was abrupt. Alright, so Pierce woke up in an asylum, installed in the cellars of the Riverside Institute. He met Dr. Colden, a female friend of Bradley, who helped him to escape. Wandering through the corridors of this place where Dr. Fuller reigned supreme, Pierce was able to talk to a man called Francis Sanders. Before dying in full view of the detective, he accused Sarah Hawkins of being the cause of his torments. Pierce finally left the accursed building accompanied by Bradley and Colden. The companions in misfortune decide to use the Hawkins mansion as a hideout. So yeah, this game is way more linear than I expected. Just by kind of going off of past games and I guess modern expectations, I was expecting a pretty big open, not like a huge open world or a sandbox per se, but kind of coming and going between clues from the investigation. I wasn't necessarily expecting something so linear. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Could that be Cthulhu?
Who goes there? That nightmare again. I need a drink.
He needs a drink, but I'm not gonna. Ooh, that's pretty. I'm not gonna get one though, cause I'm going. Wait. Hopefully we'll figure out soon how Bradley's still alive. This being a Lovecraft game based off of the Cthulhu mythos, it's very possible that, you know, the main character is kind of, Pierce, Detective Pierce, is kind of going in and out of time, dimensions, who knows.
No. I want to know what Bradley and Dr. Colden have to say about all this.
I think it's the first time where a character just straight up says no when you try to, like, leave an area you're not supposed to. Usually it's like, oh, I should see what they have to say first. Or this time he's just like, nah. Nah, dag. Alright, well, this is pretty. Don't pay too close attention to those textures, but... yeah.
You're awake, Mr. Pierce. How do you feel?
Like duty poops.
Did I sleep long?
The day is only starting. It's fine.
Investigate a little more just to make sure I don't miss anything. I'm that kind of player, you know. I don't want to miss anything at all. Nope. See, I want to do another playthrough where I drink every time I get a chance. Maybe be more of an asshole. Because it's supposed to change, I don't know about the progress of the game, but probably how characters react to you, and apparently the ending and how you get certain information. Speaking of which, just now in the asylum, there were like 3, maybe 4 different options to progress to cause a distraction. I guess I should have realized that, because I would have rather had the crazy guy do it for me, because if nothing else, there's an achievement for that. But I just wasn't really in the moment realizing that you only had one. You had multiple choices, but you could only do one of them. So I was looking for all those switches. Probably made it harder for myself trying to find those switches. Anyway. So yeah, there's that. Well.
How's our fugitive? Dr. Fuller hasn't reported your disappearance to the force, but that'll come soon.
Bradley?
Who else would it be?
Mr. Pierce, are you all right? You look like you saw a ghost.
There are things I can't explain.
Like this weird
Tell
boner.
us. What happened?
You should be dead.
Seems you two know each other pretty well.
It's a tiny island. Everyone knows everyone. Especially since I'm a police officer and Marie's a doctor.
The chemistry is obvious.
I do seem a little bit stupid, don't I?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to the business at hand.
She laughed, but she did not deny that he's a little stupid.
I found a Darkwater PD badge. Lost a colleague recently?
What the...
Bradley.
Ethan?
I'm all right. I just had a... It's gone.
You're sure?
If it's important, it'll come back. But I can't explain why Dr. Fuller would have that badge.
The man's a danger, believe me.
What can we do, Pierce?
Punch him.
What I'm sure of now is that the Hawkins case isn't just an accident.
And what brings you to that conclusion?
The fact that
What?
Charles Hawkins survived the fire.
I don't understand. Mr. Hawkins was buried.
That's what he would have you believe.
I have a hard time believing you.
You were there, Bradley. You even opened fire on it.
I'd remember that.
Why would he fake his own death? Do you think he covered up his wife's murder?
That's possible.
It seems hard to swallow. Don't you have anything more concrete, Pierce?
I'm really desperate to know, and you know the game will explain it, I'm sure, but I'm desperate to know what happened with the whole, like why Bradley was there, and that whole thing happened. I mean, this is again is an H.P. Lovecraft inspired game, so it could be this game could go anywhere as far as to explain how that occurred. But I'm just interested to see what the game does.
Bradley, what do you remember?
I don't understand your question.
The night we went into the Hawkins mansion. You don't seem to remember the tunnels and what occurred there.
No memory of going down any tunnel. No, we were in the manor, then,
Then what?
The rest is quite blurry. I don't recall how I came back home.
And then?
I went to visit you at the hospital and called on Marie's help to get you released.
And you don't remember the events of the tunnel?
I don't. Let's talk about something else.
Because I don't have intense memories of all the Lovecraft stories I've read, because I read them over, you know, almost 2 decades now. And I haven't read them all, but I definitely remember some where the main character, much like Detective Pierce here, remembers something vividly happening and then later wakes up or interacts with someone where they're like, that never happened, show us the proof. And they take the person to the proof or the evidence or where the thing occurred, and like the tunnel isn't there or the creature isn't there, or whatever the case may be. And you know, it's just supposed to kind of put an exclamation point on how crazy the main character is becoming and whether they made it up themselves or it ever really happened.
I saw people in hoods.
Hoods!
They had stolen Mrs. Hawkins' paintings.
Who are you talking about? Why would they do such a thing?
I don't know, but they were a threat. They've taken over the caves under the mansion. They were performing some kind of ritual. One of the entryways was under Charles Hawkins' office.
We suspect Mr. Hawkins of being involved.
My patients believe the old islanders used to worship primitive sea gods. Could they be the focus of the cult?
Am I hearing this right?
Someone did deface Brendan's statue.
Delinquents. Hoodlums. You got nothing more solid than that?
Only people in hoods could do something so evil. Also, delinquents and hoodlums, huh? Like, there's not a child on this entire island that I've seen so far. I mean, obviously we're not seeing every inch of the island, but... yeah. Okay, so... nothing new in Bradley's section. No. Let's talk to Colden.
I found a file bearing Sarah Hawkins' name in the Institute's basement.
It makes sense. A powerful family like the Hawkins had the means to hide such a disgrace.
But everyone knows the Fullers have been taking care of the Hawkins for at least a generation. And all were aware of Mrs. Hawkins' fragility.
Perhaps, but no one would allow a psychiatric internment.
From what I read in the file, Fuller used her as a subject of his experiments.
Sexy experiments.
Francis Sanders and Sarah Hawkins, subjects of Dr. Fuller. Why those two?
I'm an expert.
Given the energy he pours into Riverside, I presume it was Fuller's creation.
His father's, to be correct. He was a surgeon on board the Scylla. He founded the hospital in 1904 with funds from the Hawkins family before he died and his son Thomas Fuller took over.
Two families inextricably linked.
Most island families are that way. Captain Fitzroy's father was also a seaman aboard the Scylla.
Powerful families dominating everything.
Yes, and as you could tell, Dr. Fuller is like some crazed emperor.
He wouldn't be happy if he knew we were snooping around.
I know the risks. I don't fear him. Do you wish to know anything else?
Do you want to know more? So, again, I've mentioned this before, but I'm a little bummed there aren't more Easter eggs in all the lore. Like, they haven't mentioned Arkham University, which was always a mainstay, and especially the Cthulhu mythos, but all throughout Lovecraft's work. It's a fictional university in New England, which is where the Arkham Asylum for the Batman games got that name from. I think it actually has something to do with New York's real history. Arkham is in there somewhere. I don't really remember exactly what it is. But anyway, so that, I don't recognize any of the names, because sometimes prominent family names reoccur in the mythos. Yeah, it's just kind of a bummer, but not a
Dr.
game
Fuller
changer.
seems to be leaving a trail of corpses. Not to mention those strange machines, chains, and tools of all kind.
Yes. I've been telling you that Fuller uses his patients as guinea pigs.
What I saw was more akin to torture than medicine.
Do
You know,
you even hear
tomato,
what
tomato.
you're saying? Dr. Fuller is highly respected.
It's the truth, Ethan. And I'll prove it to you. I'm listening, Mr. Pierce.
Boop. Okay. Guess we're just gonna do everything here.
I have flashbacks. They haunt me.
What did they do to you?
There was that Dr. Fuller and a nurse. Blood everywhere.
And a little bit of poop.
My legs. The pain. I couldn't bear it. I was screaming. They injected me with something. I woke up at the Institute. Bradley was there.
And how you scared us. You seemed demented.
You likely woke up during the anesthesia. No wonder those memories haunt you. What in God's name were they doing to you?
What happened afterwards?
When I woke up the second time, I was in a padded cell. That's where you found me, Doctor. After you released me, I got a good look at what's in store for the patients of the Riverside Institute. Hallucinogenic gas pumped into the cells. An infernal machine. Horrific medical experiments.
Impossible. Dr. Fuller would never do such a thing.
You should believe it, Ethan. What Mr. Pierce saw is precisely what I've been trying to prove. Did you discover anything else?
Nothing new. Nothing new. Okay. Come back.
I met a Francis Sanders. Do you know him?
Of course, he's a patient. Or was. I haven't seen him since Dr. Fuller had him transferred to the basement.
He knew Sarah Hawkins. And that's what killed him.
What? How did he die?
Here's the
Sure.
thing about that.
Tell me how Mr. Sanders died.
He flew around and then just kind of like flopped a bit, and then he just gave up.
I didn't see what, but something was there with us.
Of what do you speak?
Beatlemania.
Sanders said it was Sarah Hawkins' visitor. He spoke of it like a living being.
Sarah Hawkins? Have I missed something here? This makes no sense. I don't see how it can help crack the Hawkins case.
You really think she's involved? How could she have murdered Mr. Sanders?
Francis Sanders mentioned Mrs. Hawkins just before dying. It's no coincidence.
You know, Francis Sanders was a well-known art collector. I guess you can still pay a visit to his wife, Irene Sanders.
An art collector, you say? That's probably how they met.
If you plan on having
It's
dinner
the
in
only
Sanders'
way.
household, please spare the widow the tale of her late husband's suffering.
Nope.
I don't agree. She deserves the truth.
Hard truth.
But that truth may be biased. We don't know the bottom of it.
Can truth be biased? Truth.
He's right. We can't ignore the truth.
But it could drive her mad.
Better madness than ignorance. Very
Yeah.
well. I'll go to see Francis's widow. Perhaps I'll find a link between her husband's death and Sarah Hawkins.
Don't end up in the hospital this time.
You ain't my dad.
I'll do my best.
Alright, so that's my first decision that's going to change how the game goes. I'm not really an achievement hunter, but I like to look beforehand. And if I remember things that are like easy and not like insanely difficult to get, then I'll aim for those unless they're like a path that I don't want to take. But basically there's an achievement for pushing Irene to the limit, quote unquote. So we're going to fuck her day up. That being said, I'm going to be really disappointed if Cthulhu actually doesn't make an appearance in this game, because that's what really bummed me out about the Dark Corners of the Earth Call of Cthulhu game that I mentioned earlier that came out in the early 2000s. Like I said, you fight some giant aquatic beast on a boat, very similar to the interaction with Cthulhu in the original Cthulhu story, but it was Dagon, or at least something very much like Dagon, not Cthulhu himself. I think the whole problem with having interactions with actually Cthulhu in these games is that, according to the lore, just seeing Cthulhu is supposed to drive you so mad and so crazy that you would die. So, like, I don't know how they're going to do that. We'll see.
Let us go now and learn the truth about what's happening on this island.
Dank truths.
The other night's events are still confused in my head. The other night's events are still confused in my head.
Well said. Ain't no boozing. Not gonna die. Not gonna die. Let's check what we got going on here in the menu. I have 3 CP. Where shall I put it? I do like that a couple of these you don't have to use the points for. It's just about your discovery. And that's going to reward people like myself who are a little a little too anal sometimes about searching every corner, but usually it pays off more than it doesn't, so meh. I don't care that much about strength. I'm an amateur psychologist. That hasn't... I don't think I've failed a psychology check yet. Oh, excuse me. I think I'll push investigation to the limit, so to speak. Looks like another 3 will do it. Seems like it does 5% every time, so yeah, I guess 3 will do it. No. I want to keep it. Ah, did I miss a sanity event? I'm assuming these are going in order. Damn it. I don't like missing stuff, especially when it's like trippy cutscenes. Sanity's getting pretty low, so I guess maybe that's a good thing that I didn't see that, because the more of these traumatic events that I witnessed, the lower my sanity's gonna get. Huh. So, blah 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 blah. Alright, well, doesn't really tell anything about his lore, but he was the 3rd guy in that picture that we found earlier in the game. Whoops. Okay. So I'm still learning these controls a little bit. It's kind of frustrating. Some of them are backwards from what I'm used to. Like when I want to run, I keep wanting to push the rightmost button because I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls lately. And that's the button you hold down to sprint. But in this game, it's the left trigger. And it didn't seem like you could change the controls. It was just like... Huh. It's just like... Where's it going? Oh, yeah, it's kind of like a console game, which is what I feel like this was optimized for. And when you go to the controls section of the menu, it just shows a picture, like a map of what the buttons do on the controller. I got this for 10% off through Steam because there was a 10% off pre-purchase deal going on for quite a while, and I took advantage of that. So I only paid like 41 bucks for this, whereas normal price on PC it's 45 or 46, but I think on consoles it's 60 bucks, which I don't think necessarily this game is worth that, especially since, I don't know, it's 10 to 15 hours depending on how you play it, and there is replay value, but I wouldn't say a lot. And I love supporting projects that I like that mean something to me, so I don't mind at all paying the full price for this game. Well, I mean, 10% discount isn't much, but it got me $5 off. Either way, I don't have an opinion yet. I want to finish the game before I give a straight up opinion on it.
What can I do for you, sir?
Mrs. Sanders, I'm a private detective. We must talk about your husband and his ties to Sarah Hawkins. Can I come in?
You may. However, before we go any further, please know that my husband died yesterday.
That is precisely what brings me here.
You seem really broken up about it.
Well, look who's here. You know each other.
Our paths crossed, briefly. The brave detective has a talent for sticking his nose into my business.
I bump into her every time I'm investigating someone's death.
Bump into that.
It's a small island, detective. My island. It's better that it's you bumping into me.
You're
Now
investigating
that was
Francis'
a sexy
death.
thing to say.
Why? Who hired you?
I spoke to Francis before he died. His story suggests a link to a case I'm working on.
Well, since this business has got nothing to do with me, I'll be in your husband's office, Irene. We'll carry on later.
Very well, Miss Baker. This way, Mr. Pierce. And do make yourself comfortable. It would seem that you have much to tell me.
So, Kat is far too attractive to be straight up evil. I'm sure she'll end up being an ally at some point.
May I inquire as to when you had the opportunity to talk to my husband?
Yesterday, I met him at the hospital. He spoke to me about Sarah Hawkins.
Oh, of course he spoke to you about her. That's all he talked about. Sarah Hawkins and her paintings. Please forgive my tone. The fact is that I have not been allowed to see him since he was interned. You, on the other hand, a perfect stranger, were able to see him and even talk with him the day he died. How was he? Were you present when he had this attack? What happened?
Oh, I'm not a professional psychologist. Darn it. Alright, let's push her.
He started raving, screaming that a dimensional shambler had found him.
Oh, mercy, that story again. Why have him interned?
That was when he began to convulse and twist with pain. Or terror, it's hard to tell.
Kind of like your dress is doing right now.
I beg your pardon?
I'm not really sure of what I saw, or what I didn't see. But it's best that you weren't there.
I should have been there. What you're telling me is outrageous. I need to understand. How could this happen? In a reputed institute? And right before your eyes? Did you not do anything to help him?
Oh, nice. This one will probably make the conversation go in a better direction. I automatically don't like this woman. So I don't really care about pushing her.
With all due respect, Mrs. Sanders, it was you who sent him to this asylum, not me.
Burn.
How dare you? What was I supposed to do, Detective? Upon seeing such a brilliant mind disintegrate in this way, waking with a start every night with him shrieking in horror, petrified before this accursed painting, unable to look away, until he managed to gouge his eyes out with his own hands. I should have listened to Dr. Fuller, let him intern him months ago. If I am to be condemned, it is because I did not act sooner.
I'm not here to condemn you, Mrs. Sanders.
But I am.
Oh, I'm tired, Mr. Pierce. I would be grateful if you could tell me what you expect of me, and then leave.
Well, I mean, you could have done a little more than nothing at all.
I deduce that your husband already mentioned this dimensional shambler.
Well, you can't imagine.
That
that's
was his
all
pet
he
name
talked
for me.
about. It's exhibited at the center of the gallery. No better place for the painting that endowed him with the privilege of such a shameful and miserable end to his life.
Hold on. The shambler is a painting by Sarah Hawkins.
Who else to paint such horrors? Take a look for yourself, if you feel so inclined.
Gonna.
It is my only lead at this stage. I suppose I have nothing to lose.
Then you have paid no heed. For my part, I refuse to set foot in that gallery again. But if you're so eager to see it...
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I won't be long.
Well, hopefully there will be more discussions so I can push her and get that achievement. Books. Things to read.
Did she really care for him after all?
Dear Madam, I acknowledge receipt of the letter in which you demand the body of your deceased husband. I am sorry to inform you that I cannot agree to return his body to you. At the moment of his interment, you signed a discharge, allowing me to dispose of his body as I see fit. I extend my deepest condolences to you, Thomas Fuller. Threw him in the garbage.
The day the shambler came into the Sanders' lives.
Photograph of Sarah Hawkins next to the Sanders. They must be close. Oh, I get to investigate. Hang on a second. Let me check every nuke, every cranny. Breviary of Medicine, Tome 2. Second volume of the series covers everything from gas gangrene to trench nephritis, In addition to a precise and detailed study, the book presents some avant-garde theories. The incredible complexity of this book reserves it for medical experts. Okay. I'm probably butchering a lot of these medical terms because I didn't take Latin nor any kind of medical training, so, you know. Moonlight Sonata. So... Oh, I broke it. Okay. I might as well go ahead and take care of this room. Investigation.
A house of artists.
That's it? Okay. Well, it's not showing there are any secrets. Oh.
Francis Sanders and Sarah Hawkins were close. Friends, even?
But friends?
Sanders' accession register. He wrote beside the Shambler. Finally. What did Sarah Hawkins fear so much that she didn't want to sell the painting?
It was super spooky.
He finally won. Was Sanders aware of his imminent doom?
Doom! Beware the groove. The groove.
Was she jealous of Sarah Hawkins?
I mean, look at her. Like she's not even trying. Is that Moo? Come on. There we go.
She didn't want Sanders to have the painting. She must have felt devastated.
I do like her freckles, though. Whoop. Boop. Brr!
The Shambler. I need to see it.
Need to see that ass. Anything in this room to investigate? I'll check it out. Interesting statue. What's it next to it? Coins? This place seems like it's rife for investigation. Time to get to it.